agent. Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today, I have the number 33rd ranked real estate agent in Jacksonville, Florida, according to the Jacksonville Business Journal. She is the owner of Gordon & Co., obviously abbreviation for company. I like that. I like that logo, where they are consistently the top real estate agents in Northeast Florida. They are known locally for their modern marketing and sales approach. Stole that from your, I think, your Facebook. Yep. Yeah. Zillow 5-star agent, and is in the top 1.5% of agents nationally. Let's welcome Sofie Gordon of Keller Williams Atlantic Partners to the show.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And I'm gonna go to a split shot here, so just bear with me. But I was doing some research. I didn't go to your LinkedIn wasn't quite
my
working
LinkedIn's
out
not
there.
Quite anything. So.
And you'll find, what's interesting is we were talking pre-show, is you say social media is one way you get business. I'm going to recommend to you need to get that LinkedIn up to speed.
And you know what? I will tell you that I am so overwhelmed with the channels that work that if I divert focus, my head might explode.
Well, that's kind of like a static thing. I don't think it's...
It's not. And I it's up to date. It is up to date. I'm at Keller Williams there. You know my whole background. You know where I went to school. But posting all the articles and everything.
No. Yeah. Oh. Unless you got a service that's doing that for you. Mm-hmm. But there is one easy way to do it. And I haven't done it recently, but obviously with ChatGPT, sometimes I've actually taken a reel from a show, someone making a statement about whatever the subject was, and actually went to ChatGPT and write a quick LinkedIn article, brief talking about
in 10 seconds,
and stick it under to stick it under there. But just, I think in the social media world, and we're going to talk about it on the show in detail, everyone, how social media, and I assume a lot of your clients from outside the area, they're using social media to get to know you.
Absolutely. And it's it's all Instagram. It is. We can dive into it whenever you're ready, but a good majority of my business is from Instagram.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to how that works. So, well, let's, as I always do, start off every show. Tell us about young Sofie, or Sophia, right, is your official name.
My legal name is Sophia. Yes.
Tell us about young Sophia. She's 17, 18 years old. Where are you going? What's going on in your life?
So I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and moved to Ponte Vedra when I was in middle school. Been here, and totally love it. Left for a little bit and came back. Went to UNF for school, and I got my degree in marketing and worked in marketing. I got an internship my sophomore year. Got hired on when I was still in college and stayed there for a couple of years and got my Pilates teaching certification. I'm very social, so I like being around people.
Cool.
And I never wanted to be in sales. It was like this big taboo to me because my husband works in the car business, and I was so averse to the idea of selling something.
So what was your vision of a career at the time? Getting out of high school, what did you kind of feel would be? You weren't married at 18 years old.
No, I wasn't, but I had met the person I did eventually marry, which was also not the plan at 18. Not the plan at all. I met him on Tinder. That's a whole nother story. But it sounds kind of silly, and I assume I'm probably not the only woman who grappled with this, but I wanted to figure something out where I could balance like having a family, raising kids, and all that. And not being like in a cubicle all day, like finding that work-life balance. And so I had no idea. I knew that I was working at a marketing firm and I couldn't stand sitting behind a computer all day. It just drained me. I thought I'd be with clients and I wasn't. So that's why I got my Pilates certification.
Because at a young age, like that's kind of the entry level thing that they're going to put you in.
Well, yeah. I started as an intern, and then while I was still in college, I like to work. Like my brain moves quickly, so I've got to be doing something. And I got hired full time at the marketing agency while I was still in school. And by the time I graduated, I was already an account manager. So I was managing accounts for businesses and doing their overall marketing, including their LinkedIn, even though you can't tell right now. But yeah, so I was going to meetings 3 times a week instead of, 4 or 5 hours a day, which I thought it would be. And so I was just I was getting burnt out.
It wasn't the area
It was
you
just
wanted to be.
draining.
Just
No.
wasn't-
And so during COVID, my husband's always said, you need to be in real estate. And I'm like, absolutely not. And so then like, it was like this 1 week and like 3 or 4 different people who I really know and love said, you need to be in real estate. And so I remember I was sitting at a pool party at my mom and stepdad's house.
Were you wearing a mask?
Do you want me to answer that question? I live in Florida. I'll just say that. So I was sitting at a pool party, and my stepdad was like, I'm thinking about selling my house. And there were like 3 or 4 different agents at this party, and I could see them all like buzzing, like buzzing.
Right.
And so I didn't know what agents made. I didn't know anything about real estate. And I thought, let me just run some quick numbers. So I literally Googled, what does a real estate make on a sale? A real estate agent make on a sale? And I ran the quick numbers, and I was like, Mom, stepdad, give me a month. I'll get my license and I'll sell the house. That was my first transaction.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was just like, it was fast and moving ever since then. It's been a total blessing.
So this moment of inspiration.
We'll call it that.
Yeah. So there's 4 real estate agents in there. I imagine, you had some level of respect for.
They're good agents.
Yeah. So
I didn't know anything about them though, because I wasn't an agent.
right.
I just knew they were agents.
Did you grapple onto one? Or in like, hey, what do I do? I want, or would you go outside of that group? Or
I immediately started doing some research. I'm a big researcher, and so I interviewed with 3 brokerages even before I had my license, and I just got all the information I possibly could from these 3 really well-respected brokerages in town, one of them being Keller Williams. And I think the level of, I met with Mark Dilworth, who's exceptional. He got me so excited to do this because I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with the intention of being number 1. And so that's what I did. I put all my energy into it, and he got me so excited to finish my license and get started right away. It was just a no-brainer. Yeah, I didn't meet with other agents. I didn't do any of that. I just went straight to the source.
So you gave your 2-week notice to the marketing company and
yeah, sure.
told your husband you're going to have to pull weight because you told me to be a realtor.
Well, and it was honestly, it has been the biggest blessing for our family.
Right.
We've become really serious investors ourselves, and Zach, my husband, would be the first to say, like, none of that would have been possible if I didn't dive headfirst into real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you when you look at the timing of everything, because I know some of the senior agents, some of these people have been around at least prior to 2008. Who have seen
everything,
some ups and downs, because there's been some low points in the last 10 years, but not anything catastrophic type of thing. And obviously what we saw in 20 and especially in 21, because all of a sudden the push to Florida went on steroids because of COVID, and we still had the very low interest rates. So you had this just feeding frenzy, so to speak. But do you ever look back and say, gee, I kind of entered on a really good upswing. I got in front of this wave, and how it's helped you get very successful in a very short period of time. And, talking pre-show with you, I gained some confidence in you and where you're at in your business. And we'll talk about, what's prepared, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring or 24 is going to bring, that type of thing. But do you feel that really helped you? You just kind of like the timing was just right.
So I'll tell you, for a long time, up until recently, like probably a year ago, I 100% had imposter syndrome. I was so worried about what you just said. I came in at the right time. I just got lucky. I was just so worried. I just got lucky. This isn't really, this isn't going to stay. Are you kidding? How am I going to maintain this? Right. I had to fight with that for so long.
Yes.
That I had business because everyone was buying and everyone was selling. But, I've had consistent numbers for the past 3 years, and I've developed such a good referral network that I don't have that imposter syndrome anymore. But I think it was a total blessing because we were thrown into, sure, it was the biggest market, the busiest market, but it was also the most challenging. I mean, I love representing buyers. I love it. Everyone said to me for so long, that's going to change. It's going to change. I love working with buyers and working in a market for, I don't know, a year and a half there where if you didn't have your offer and it wasn't excellent and you didn't have it in immediately and it wasn't written perfectly, you weren't getting your buyer's offer accepted. That makes you a really good agent. Like, under fire, you really, really get molded. And it was...
Well, did you find yourself, like, obviously reaching out and learning, educating yourself, whether it was...
Endlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first started at Keller, there are excellent people there for one, but this is one of the main reasons I chose to go with Keller Williams is because their training is unparalleled. So I first started there, and the first, I think it was 9 weeks, I had training every single day. It was like I was at school. I had training every single day, and I had one resource. His name was Patrick Dorian. He was the instructor. He's an excellent agent, and he was there morning, noon, and night to answer every single question. Because when you start out, like even if you have your license, you don't know how to write a contract. You don't know what any of these addendums are, nothing like that. So he answered every single call and made sure that you were not just good, you were great at your job. And so I wouldn't be nearly the agent I am if I didn't have that 24/7 guidance.
Well, I often, explain to agents what I'm telling them about myself. I was at Quicken Loans for 8.5 years.
Right.
So there was some thin times, and many of us thought of pulling the plug in summer of 07 especially. It was just like crickets. 08, can't say it was that much better, but obviously by October of 08, November of 08, that's when the rates started to drop, and all of a sudden, obviously we were starting to roll into refis, and it just picked up pace from there because that was primarily their business at the time. And so I got a lot of reps.
Right.
To be able to one customer after another, and people obviously you can help. It wasn't a scarcity thing, and because I think your confidence obviously seems. The fact that you knew there were deals out there, you just had to find how to put the puzzle together, and that's what excited you and kept you moving on to the next day versus going, where's my next customer going to come from?
Well, and you're absolutely right. So I realized the minute I stopped listening to negative news, my business got better. It's all about mindset. If you are listening constantly to people telling you the market's going to crash, there's going to be nothing. It's all over TikTok, right? It's all over the mainstream media. I stopped listening to it. And I'm telling you, like, I might have rose-colored glasses on. I don't care. There will always be people. There will always be people having to upsize because they have a new baby. There will always be people getting divorced. Always people passing away to their estates. Everyone's life is constantly going to change, which means there is always going to be real estate to be had.
I was talking to Patty Ketchum last month about the NAR lawsuit and stuff like that. But there was one thing she said in that podcast was, everybody wants to sleep under a roof.
Everyone wants to sleep under a roof. That is a great, absolutely.
So it's always there. So right now, looking back, and obviously you're training with Keller Williams. Like you said, you got this positive attitude, and we are going to talk about what your vision is to 24. What are some things that they got you doing from day one that you and I know a lot of agents probably ran through 2021, weren't keeping a proper CRM, weren't keeping all that information, because those are the people you need to now circle back to and try to squeeze for referrals. What are some of those like staple things that, and you may not even know why you were doing it, but they told you to do?
So I would say it was a combination of my classes with Keller, which were primarily real estate focused, transaction focused, and just being in marketing for so long, right? So the main things I did when I first got into real estate, and whenever I teach a class or I do something like this, I like to give like tangible takeaways. And so a couple of them, one, I absolutely built a wall around my people, and I still do to this day. Like, it's not a coincidence that many, if not most of my clients would say we're friends first, and that is absolutely on purpose. I reach out, and this is kind of what my strategy has been. I get couples together. Let's just go get a drink. Just a group of like 6 of us. It'll be like 2 clients that I thought would really get along, and then my husband and me. And then we become friends and we turn it into a monthly thing, or we start going to church together, or, little things like that. And so when you develop that relationship beyond just transactional, it's really, really hard for people to step out and work with another agent, right? Because you're friends. Right. That's 1. 2, I dove headfirst into social media, and I still do. It is as much a priority to me as my sphere is. Many agents will not tell you that, but my numbers show it. So a good portion of my business comes just from my consistency on Instagram. So I dove headfirst into that. I'm sure you want to talk specifics on it.
Well, I do, because I'm gonna go. Did you just get married?
I got married almost 5 years ago. So
okay, maybe because on the Instagram page I was looking on looked like, or did you guys just go on a vacation to Europe?
We do that. Yeah, we did do that.
But there was a wedding type photo in there. Did you guys renew your vows or something?
No, we are going to. You're revealing, you're revealing all of my plans for 2024.
Well, one thing I noticed on your page, and I think everyone has a different opinion on, should you have your business
separate
page? Yeah. You mix it all in.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so one of my biggest blessings is that I've been here since middle school. There are agents who do an excellent job of jumping into a new market that they're unfamiliar with and just excelling and creating a brand new network. I thought, I've been here for so long, there are a lot of people I know here. Maybe we only had a conversation or 2 in high school or middle school, but I have a connection and they follow me on Instagram. Those people buy houses too. Why, reinvent the wheel? So I figured from very early on, and I thought long and hard about that. Do I create a brand new social media that no one else follows, a brand new Instagram page that I have to hope that these people follow me? Or do I just merge my personal and my business? And I merged them, and it has been a huge blessing. And I have people tell me all the time, I love your posts, like keep posting them. And it's people that may buy one day or may sell one day, but they just like being educated. We are fortunate to work in an industry, like everyone likes real estate. Everyone likes houses.
Right. I think the difference for you in one of these seminars where they're telling you, because everyone has their opinion. I don't think there is a true tell, but in your case, because you are actually marketing to your sphere of people that locally versus that agent coming in outside and like, hey, here's my business. Type of thing. And I don't think you're overwhelming them with because some people can overwhelm them with their personal stuff.
100%.
You can, me and another loan officer, we were talking about someone individually in town that's just like, oh my God, can they just stop?
Well, and you're so right. I'm extremely cognizant of that because there are a lot of people now who follow me just for the real estate. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be like if I posted real estate, I'd get some unfollows because, they were there for the personal stuff. But now it's if I post too much personal, I'll lose a follower or 2. And so, like, I threw a Christmas party this weekend. It was amazing. It was so much fun. But I didn't post about it. I posted, like, 1 picture. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. These are, like, there's no formula to it. I've just learned.
Well, it's who's your avatar, right? That's what they say. Who's your avatar? Your avatar is all those people that know you organically in the area. That's who you're marketing to. You're not trying to market, although you'll accept anyone from anywhere. You're not trying to market the New York buyer or Michigan buyer, although you may get them. You're focused on the people and know you, love you here locally.
Well, and I'll tell you, I have spent a whole lot of money marketing to the people who don't know me or know people who know me, and it is nowhere near as successful as marketing to the people I know.
I was at a seminar yesterday, and this gentleman talked about, and hopefully I'll have him on the podcast in February as he's coming back in town.
Awesome.
But they took 3 groups, 20 agents that were making less than $100,000, and broke them into 3 groups. Well, one was doing the stereotypical door knocks, cold calls, that kind of real estate
that everyone talks
mindset.
about
Yeah,
when you
everyone
first get started.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yes.
And then the second,
It's a huge time waster, and then you spend a lot of money and time and don't have anything to
yeah,
show. Yes.
the next group was focused geographically.
Mm-hmm.
They were focused whatever number of neighborhoods, whatever, and they just pounded that. Even if it was just going by and throwing a basically a postcard,
Right.
or let alone I said to myself, so basically you think they should just you're basically your business card more or less. Maybe it's a flyer or different medium, but you're just, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. I'm type of thing. And they did better than the first group. The group that did so successful, and you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, like going out and having drinks, was the group that focused on the people and created the friendships. Whether he one thing he did personally, he told me, was he had Taco Tuesday, but the rule was that he had to have someone different. It wasn't like, hey, Taco Tuesday, everyone come over. It was Taco Tuesday,
That's exactly
Steve,
right.
John,
Yeah.
his wife, the kids, whatever, and that family came over and they spent time together.
And then you're no longer just their real estate agent.
Right.
Yes, and that's so important.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now they actually have an emotional attachment to you, because they know you more, right? And now they can relate that to the person that they may be referring you to.
Well, and I said it earlier, I build a wall around my people because I don't know the exact numbers, you may know, but there are 1 billion real estate agents in Florida. Like everyone knows.
I don't know if 1 billion, but there's a lot.
It's really close. It's like, I swear to you, there are like the same number of residents as there are real estate agents. At least that's how it feels. So I know that everyone I know knows 5 other agents.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So why are they going to work with me? Ideally because they like me the most, because we're friends.
Right.
Like, I'd like to not give them a choice.
You went the little extra mile.
Oh my gosh, and I
100%.
still do. I'm meeting tonight with 3 girlfriends, and all of them are clients of mine.
Right.
Yeah, and we're just getting coffee, and they're all like my close friends now.
Just a big tip out there. Like I said, we talked about pre-show, reaching out to a new agent, someone might be struggling right now, obviously giving you a call and touching base, get them a little more detail on some of the, because that's what you like to go out and, obviously you're young, and go out and have some drinks.
Yeah.
Having the just a couple over for dinner at the house. I mean, it doesn't take much.
No.
And you don't have to take them out to Ruth Chris.
No, and you don't even have to pay. Like, actually, like, I would tell you, I build it as a friendship and not as like a client. When you keep paying, you're still, and this is not necessarily something I've even thought through, but it is like something we do. We go out as friends.
Yeah.
Like, I start to build that relationship as a friendship before we even go and get dinner together.
So you might buy one time, they buy another time, or however you do
Yeah,
it,
it's
right?
not,
Yeah.
well, exactly. Like, just like you are with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. That's solid information right there. All right. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. You're at the pool party. You get the suggestion to become a real estate agent. You said you went out and actually spoke to some brokers. I imagine those 4 agents that were at the party, were they all from the same brokerage?
No, they were all from different brokerages.
All from different brokerages.
Different brokerages. And I didn't necessarily know that at the time. I know that now because I know who they are now. When you're not an agent, we're in such a bubble.
Yeah.
Like, no one really knows about like the rankings and who's doing this, blah, 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 outside of like our like agents.
Yeah, that are
like, we are so caught up in that. Other
understand
people
what that
are
post
not.
meant.
Other people are not caught up in that. So I didn't know anything about them, even though now I know that they were good agents and they're successful agents. If I knew, maybe I'd be intimidated, but I wasn't because I didn't know.
Well, let's tap on that a little bit from the standpoint that the names right now, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Berkshire Hathaway, they don't really, people aren't, as we may be going shopping and say, hey, we're going to go to Home Depot, or we're going to go to Walmart or Target, or Saks Fifth Avenue, depending on what we're buying. We go to the name, right? But when it comes to who's representing them from a real estate transaction, how important, as you're on social media, it's really you and the brand you create.
It's an interesting balance because I'll tell you, with my older clientele, so if I'm working with someone in their 70s or 80s, I've realized they tend to care a lot about the brand backing me. So they tend to care a lot who my brokerage is and if they're reputable. And with the younger clientele, this is not always the case, but it's something I've realized.
First time home buyer.
First time, they have no idea
Right.
what brokerage I'm with. It's on all of my marketing. Keller Williams' logo is on all of my marketing, but they know who I am and they watch my stuff. It's not Keller Williams speaking through my Instagram. It's me speaking. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I chose Keller Williams initially, partially because of the name recognition and the reputation, but really, I mean, I was telling you before the show started, I meet with other brokerages, and my brokerage knows this, and I'm not the only agent who does this. I meet with other brokerages and interview with them relatively frequently, a couple times a year, and it's not really because I'm interested. I'm not. I'm so happy where I am, but it's to, reinforce my decision to be with Keller Williams. And I meet with them and I find out the numbers, like I find out the splits, I find out what they offer, all of these things, and I still have not been enticed to change. And it really comes down to the people. When you're a newer agent, the most important thing is surrounding yourself with other agents who are ready to collaborate and not compete. Because we are all competitors, but
Right.
I think every agent at Keller will say, like, I can reach out to any successful agent in my brokerage and they're going to help me and tell me what to
All
do.
right, so we're going back in time now. So you go out, you talked to a few brokerages initially, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us what it was when you sat down with whomever you sat down with Keller Williams, because within that half hour, whatever you talked, that grabbed you. What was it that said, "This is where I want to"?
So I met with Mark Dilworth. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's excellent. If you are a newer agent and you're thinking about either switching brokerages or getting just started, Mark's the person you want to meet with. It's important early on to have someone tell you you're gonna be great at this, and here's how. Like, we're gonna help you be great at this, and have like the energy to support it. Right? He was just that. Like, I felt like I had a blueprint for success within 20 minutes of meeting with him. Like, no doubt. Like, it wasn't just generic. Like, I really felt like I could do this, and I felt like he wasn't just blowing smoke. Like, they would have people to support me. When I met with other brokerages, it felt like it lacked energy, like it lacked excitement, And I'm such an extrovert that I feel and I feed off of people's energy, and so when I am in a work environment, I want to be able to go into the office and be encouraged and be supported. And I felt like at those other offices, I would walk in and it would just be everyone would be in cubicles and no one was really communicating or collaborating. At Keller, it's all community tables. Like we have like, I don't know, like 5 training classes a day, like super cool stuff like that all the time. And there are parties all the time. Like, I just love the people and the environment. It was a no-brainer from the get-go.
Well, that's actually interesting. You said parties all the time.
But we're real estate agents, of course.
Well, people don't realize, I think this is actually off my script here, but they look at a real estate agent and they see this lifestyle, but you and I know the work that needs to be put in to actually be successful, or at least earn a decent living for the time you're putting in. But have you found, in we working in year 3, right? 3.5 years now, right? If I
You're right.
yeah, because it's not on your LinkedIn.
I get it.
I couldn't find it. I couldn't
everyone,
find it on your
there
LinkedIn.
is room for improvement.
But part of you've understood very quickly by the way you market. Like you said, you're reaching out to your past clients, especially those you want to get to know better, and that is. Even though you're having fun and it's great and you're laughing and having a drink, but ultimately you've understood that being a real estate agent is a 24/7 lifestyle.
Oh my gosh. I mean, people always say, people who don't work in real estate want to be in real estate to have a more flexible schedule, which I think is so funny. I'm not going to laugh in their face. I will never. It is just so funny because I work weekends. I work until, ask any of my clients, if they text me at 10:30 p.m., I am working. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, if I'm at dinner with my husband or with a group of friends, I am working. There's like no way around it. And I just think it's so funny. Get into real estate for a flexible schedule. Let's see what happens.
Well, I think like I said, you're working in a relationship, and someone from the outside may say, "Oh, so you invited them out to drinks because you want deals from them." Well, yeah, that's ultimately, and I know I have to build relationships, but I think anyone in our entire world, the reason why there's conflict or people may not like each other is because they don't even know
each other. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I want to do business with my friends and I want to do more business with them, but I also really like people. Like I feel so endlessly blessed that my clients are unbelievable. I work with some of the best people I've ever met in my life, and I want to be friends with them. And there are older fashioned real estate agents who will tell you, like, keep business, get business, right? And keep your personal. I don't know how you're successful with that. I don't get it. I mean, my business is personal.
Yeah. Well, here the reality is when you go out to have drinks with them, what are you selling? You're not trying to sell them.
I don't talk about real estate at all, unless they ask.
You're not trying to sell them anything.
No.
You're not trying to sell them makeup or whatever it is. It's they know you're a real estate agent.
It's no secret.
And they want their friends to be taken by the great person that's in front of them because they have grown to like you, love you, and tell that other person, hey, she's awesome. Sophie's awesome.
Well, I was at a Christmas party this weekend, and one of my clients was hosting the party, who's one of my very good friends. And she said, like, she pulled me aside and whispered, she's like, everyone here knows you're an agent. I told everyone. And I have 2 people I think are in the market. I'm just letting you know you need to talk to them. And she is my client, but she is also my friend. And so you want your friends to do well.
Do you ever sit back sometimes, because you have some of these people, obviously this person you've had drinks with or so forth, and maybe for a while, but some of these people you really just closed on a house. Maybe you did have dinner with them or something, and you started that relationship, but you don't quite know everything about them yet. But almost like a trusted psychologist, they want to confide in you.
Oh, I feel like we wear a million hats, and one of them is like a therapy hat. Like, it's just so funny. Yeah, so to make it... A lot of people are probably like, well, how do you organically transition from a real estate agent to a friend, right? Like, they feel like that would be wonky. So I start planting seeds really early on. If it's someone I feel like they'd be cool to hang out with, I'll let you know. Like, I definitely have clients who I do not want to be friends with. It has 100% happened. I'm not going to force it. Like, I know that if we go get drinks or dinner, it's going to, like, there's no, So, but the majority of them is not like that. The majority of them I feel like a very close connection with. And so I start dropping seeds during the transaction. Like, for example, a client of mine who I'm having coffee with tonight, I said to her during our first transaction together, I said, gosh, I think you'd really like my friend Emily. Like, we should all get drinks sometime. And so she's like, oh, because she was new here. She didn't have any friends. And she's like, oh, yeah, let's do it. I don't know anyone yet. And so I kept following up on that. At the end of the transaction, I put them in a group text. And I say, Evelyn just closed on her first house. We need to go get some drinks. And Emily was
someone you matched.
She's a client. She's a client, but she's also a friend. She's like, yes, let's do it. We got to celebrate.
Yeah.
And then that's how, I do it with almost every single one.
I say this a lot. I say this is one of the things I preach it a lot. I tell people, and I think it's John Maxwell's 25 Ways to Influence People. And that's introducing them to other people.
People like meeting people, like even introverts like knowing people. And so I introduce as many people who I think will be friends as possible. It's as simple as that.
And your influence comes because, one, you did introduce them. So you put them on basically a pedestal they were worthy to meet one of your friends.
I wouldn't put it like that, but you're right. I like introducing good people to good people.
Right.
It's a compliment. I know what you're saying. It's a compliment.
Highly enough of them to join your circle.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'll even set people up on dates. I'm not kidding.
Oh my God.
It's just people meeting people.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
But you deep down, you are stroking their ego by introducing, because you thought they were good enough to introduce to somebody, right? And vice versa. Your other friend now, and then it does give them the greater perception that you're connected. That, hey, Sophie's someone I need to know and keep close to because she knows people.
I think they think I'm far more important than I actually am.
Yes.
It's 100% true. Which I'll just roll with.
How do you handle, because I'm visualizing if anyone's watching, so I assume you're in your mid-20s, right? Yeah. So when you have those older clients, and maybe they're not to go and have a few drinks, or obviously maybe have a family burdens their time and so forth. How do you handle that?
I do the same thing. So a lot of my clients are my parents' friends, and also whenever I sell property in Marsh Landing and Sawgrass, for example, I always knock on the neighbors' doors, just the two next door. I'm not going to go door knocking the whole street, just the two next door, and I introduce myself, and I've gotten business from that before, which is crazy, like real business. But I do the same thing. I mean, even I have a client who's 86, and he's a single older man, and he lives here in Ponte Vedra, and he came to Thanksgiving with my family last year because I didn't want him to be alone for Thanksgiving.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and I still introduced him, I've introduced him to some golfing buddies. I do the exact same thing. I go about it a little differently. Our conversations are different, right? But
you find a way to reach out. I feel what you're telling me is for every individual you're working with, you're thinking of a way to,
convert their relationship.
Some more than others, just,
Yes.
like you said, you get along with some you don't even, are.
Which I think is everyone. I mean, you meet people. Everyone meets people that they're like, we can leave it at a professional relationship. But no,
Closing, here's your gift. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Hey, let me know if you need anything.
But no, I mean, every single time I have a new client, I'm always trying to learn more about them to transition that relationship from professional to more, and to more than just realtor-client relationship, but to a friendship.
Yeah.
I think it is just so important.
I think right now, if anyone listening to this right now, you need to reach out. So if you're not doing this, it's so, you've built it in your life. You like doing it. That's important. Because if you didn't like the actual,
it wouldn't come naturally.
You weren't the people person, or you showed up to have drinks and couldn't
keep a conversation.
Or entertain or organize a conversation. Well, it's great when you bring friends because they help carry the weight for you, right?
Well, so that's the thing. I almost never. It's almost never just like me and one other person. I always try to have a little group because you laugh more and there are more stories, and there's no like awkward silence. Not that I really ever have awkward silences in conversation, because I can fill air, but I want people, I want people to have just natural, fun conversation. So I always do groups. I always do groups, and kind of what you said, and I didn't even realize that to be the case. It does reinforce Sofie has other people. Like she has other good people around her. I want, you know what I mean? So it's very natural though. Like it sounds kind of like a formula, but there's really no formula. I just go into every relationship with the intent of making them my friend.
And for maybe someone getting started new, to be consistently reaching out to their friends, because maybe they're not clients yet, or that type of, they don't have enough clients. How regularly do you try to schedule these kind of small socials that you have?
So I'll just walk you through what I do in marketing in general, because I do consider this part of my marketing. Relationships are still marketing to me.
100%.
Yeah, so there are 4 pieces of marketing that go out every single month to everyone in my sphere, and that's 1 print, 2 emails, and then something called a Lolo. Do you know what Lolo is?
That's where you get a little coupon
gift
for
every year. It's called Locals Supporting Locals, and it's a little text to all of your contacts every single month with like an awesome gift. And it's not a coupon; it's like an actual free thing. Like this month, they just got a free cup of free latte from Bold Bean from me. Okay. And anyway, so there's because
you can and then just so people listening, Lolo, you can actually geographically, because.
Yes. So if I have clients out of state, I can still send them a gift to their local coffee shop. It's super, super cool. Yeah. But anyway, so 4 pieces of marketing, like those are real marketing items. And then my 5th is always relationship point. And you're not going to do that. Like I have hundreds of people. I have almost 1,000 people in my sphere, and you're not going to reach out to everyone every single month, right? But my goal for me is, every other week I need to meet with some of my friends/clients for something. Play pickleball with them, whatever, or invite them at least.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to follow it with a question. I was at the gentleman I was listening to yesterday. One of the in this very successful group, because they had 3 groups, they realized that the reaching out and touching 4 times a month, which is what you're basically doing. Yeah. Is where the success. If you're doing that, you'll you'll have a listing in 2 to 3, they have down, and then, but if you're doing only 3 times, you'll get a listing in almost twice as long. If you're only doing it twice, it's even longer before you get a listing. And this could be marketing to a geography or marketing, obviously, to your peeps. So they know somebody who's selling real estate, buying, whatever. If you're doing it just once a month, just burn it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. I really, really believe in education. So I attend a lot of classes. I listen to a ton of podcasts, including yours. And I read a lot. And the four touches a month is not an accident. I mean, I want them to see my name once a week. That's my goal. I don't care if they even open the piece of mail I send them, but I want them to see my name once a week. I want it to be, on their mind.
Yep. Because what are we doing? We're scrolling down the email saying, who sent me that email? Who sent me the email? Do I need to read it? Delete. Oh, Sophie sent me something. Okay, maybe I need to read that. Or just they saw your name.
Or they saw my name.
They saw it you sent them.
Which is totally fine. Yeah. So
that girl that keeps sending me these emails.
Well, newer agents will, not even just newer agents, but maybe agents who don't do it full time or aren't super active. I've heard it so many times. People forget I'm an agent. I'll see one of my friends post that they bought a house with someone else and they didn't even think about me. I don't want that to ever be the case.
Right.
I want people to
just rips your heart out.
It does.
That's
I
like
told you
our nightmare.
I told you that business is personal for me.
Yeah.
It really is.
Right.
And so that would be a heartbreaker to me.
Yeah.
And so I do, I stay in front of them, not annoying. I don't want to be that person who's in your face about real estate all the time. Much of what I send is not about real estate.
Yes. Well, your social media, like you look on the Instagram page, you have numerous personal, and then you might, something about real estate. One of the last ones was your top 33 ranking, and you're spinning in there. It's like Sofie real estate, Sofie real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all my stories on Instagram, like the people who view my stories every day, it's all real estate.
Yeah.
It's all real estate, and I got really high engagement because, someone told me early on, keep posting. Everyone likes seeing houses. Everyone likes seeing cool houses. And it's so true. When I wasn't an agent, I loved seeing houses. I became an agent. This is so silly and stupid. I watched Selling Sunset. And I was like, oh, it's going to be just like that. I get to wear really cool dresses and eat at really fancy restaurants. And it's going to be so easy. I don't know if you can feel that eye roll through the microphone, but it's not like that. It's not like that. It's so much better. Thank God. It's so much better. It has been an interesting roller coaster.
Just because Christina Welch was one of my originals. I didn't videotape it, so I had her on, I think, pretty much right at the beginning of the year. And we talked more, not about her personal thing, but obviously her team and real estate and stuff. But that's what, I think she was at the point she's, interviewing all the time. And she goes, this is not, real estate is not selling sunset, whatever. She brought that show up too. No. I thought that was funny that you said it's not. And obviously she made it clear that, some of these people coming in to talk about real estate, that is their vision or at least impression, which, I can't blame them. You only know what you know, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Right. I mean, there are so many shows that make our job look super glitzy, and there are elements of it that are so much fun. I mean, there totally are. But 99% of what we do is getting down and dirty into a deal. You've got to memorize how a contract works and breathes, right? I mean, that's not shown on Selling Sunset. You need to know about insurance and know about loan guidelines and all of these things that you're not talking about when it's a TV show because it's really boring and they don't want to talk about it.
Right. You're bringing up something I want to leave because I kind of had a couple questions in this area, but I'm going to tweak the question a little bit. Your support at Keller Williams, and even those people have been there, 20 years, you don't know everything. But, we went through a period of time, especially when you first started, 2021, where you're getting multiple offers and so forth. Now it's, when you go on that listing appointment, you got to be a little more strategic and you're presenting because you're competing against a lot of builders with a lot of incentives because interest rates are up. I assume it's kind of your number one competition right now, at least, from someone trying to sell a house is new builds. Tell us a situation that you had, and you may or may not use names. That's up to you. Of kind of where you had that situation where you had to pick up the phone, and call someone at, I would imagine, at Keller Williams, who is more experienced with to strategize your overcome that.
Oh my gosh.
situation.
I mentioned Patrick Dorian early on. So for 9 weeks, and he was paid, like this was a job for him. So he wasn't just doing a favor, but he was excellent at it. He was seriously morning, noon, and night. I was able to call him. He's a very successful, experienced agent. He knew his stuff, and he's far more analytical than I, which I really appreciate someone with that brain, especially when you're first getting into real estate and you're worried that you're going to just F something up, right? Like you're worried, I'm going to get my buyers or my seller into a situation that's going to screw them out of thousands of dollars. That's a huge fear when you're a new agent. Being able to call a successful agent who's done hundreds of transactions, who know it like the back of their hand, is invaluable. So I called him about things that I probably knew the answers to, and he was probably so annoyed. Like if I really thought about it, I probably could have figured it out.
Because you've been to his classes or whatever, you've been training on them, you kind of knew the answer, but you wanted the reinforcement.
You want someone who knows more than you to tell you that's correct.
Yeah.
Because I always thought, like, better safe than sorry. Like, I reached out to my broker even about so many silly things, probably early on in hindsight, just to cover myself, just to make sure you're doing this right. You got this. Your buyer's good or your seller's good.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and there are a lot of agents. There are a lot of newer agents, and I work with them on the other side of the transaction pretty frequently, who don't have that resource. And so I will say to the agent on the other side, in a non-insulting way, I'll say, hey, like, let's work together as a team on this. If you need anything, please let me know. Like, we've got the same goal here.
Well, let's speak to that from the standpoint, because that's not something I have not heard before.
So
I'm hearing it quite frequently, actually. And for that person on the other end, again, who may not, and sometimes they don't want to admit it. Sometimes, obviously, egos get involved in emotional. But to understand and have the mindset that working with you and other people that are great, because they're great because they have this mindset in that situation, that this is a team effort.
Well, and
buyer, seller, get them, lender, whatever,
right.
We got to get them to closing.
So every single transaction I go into, every single one, even like before we put an offer in, but I know we're getting prepared to. I always say to the agent on the other side, whether they've been doing this for 40 years or 4 minutes, let's work together. Let's do everything we need to do to make our buyer and seller happy on this. Because I've been in transactions where it feels like you're like, butting heads and fighting against each other. And I think everyone who has been in those situations will say that it's unproductive. And so I decided a couple years ago, I'm going to make that agent my team member. And it's true. We are working towards the exact same goal. We want our buyer and our seller to be happy, right? And so when we work together, it's way more successful.
Do you feel, I feel when I hear these stories that the agent on the other side feels because they've got it, hey, we got to do, a lot of times, obviously, I assume these battles come over negotiations and repairs or whatever need to be done, right? And that selling agent oftentimes, maybe not be always a selling agent, but like they're trying to protect the seller, when in reality, if you and your client walked away, the next client is just as likely
to find the same things in the inspection report and have the same conversations.
And how many times have you seen it over and over again? That's the way it is. So you might as well deal with who's in front of you, because you're a lot closer to closing.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think that probably, I was far more of a fighter in my beginning transactions. And don't get me wrong, I fight for my clients to save and make every single dollar they possibly can and get the best situation. But I do it with honey and not vinegar now. And it has made so much of a difference. You can achieve great things for the people in a transaction by collaborating.
Do you, and you may do this, you may have learned this while you're dealing with a little bit of more honey. When you get that call and the agent on there says, hey, we need that fixed, or hey, we want, instead of fixing it, just give us $2,000 seller concessions,
right.
whatever the offer is, which may not make you happy, because now obviously now you got to go to your sellers and ask them basically to give up whatever amount of money. But how important is hang up the phone and take a few moments and play through, like chess, what the next 3 moves are going to be. If I go to how should I present it to the clients? And then how do I, I think Kim Knapp says it very well. she'll go back to her clients and say, for $1,000, you're going to walk away from this house that you love the street, you love the neighborhood, your kids are going to go to that school, and you're ready to walk away for $1,000.
Well, and I'll break it down even further than that. I'll reach out to the lender and I'll say, hey, and I just did it the other day. We were apart by $9,000. And for the size of this transaction, that was nothing. And I said to the lender, I said, hey, I'm apart from getting this offer accepted because the buyer doesn't want to come up with another $9,000. How's that going to affect them over 30 years? And so I was able to find out, I think it was $20 a month or something.
Approach.
Yeah. So, and you figure out your buyers, you figure out what kind of brain they have, right? And I know that she's a numbers person. I found out, I think it was $20 a month or something. I said, hey, you love this place. Are you really going, like, if we can't come to terms, are you okay walking away for $20 a month? The answer is almost never no if they really love the property.
Right.
And so, and I'll still, I mean, I will fight to my last breath to get them that deal as low as possible. But when the seller says to you, this is our best, we're not, you know, you got to navigate it and you just got to.
It's part of negotiation. And the whole important thing is coming to a commonality, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the seller has to feel they won. The buyer has to feel they won in the draw. Of the
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's a dance.
There's no, I guess, in the sports analogy, there's no one ever actually a winner and a loser. We hope there's not that situation. Hope someone doesn't take advantage of another, but sometimes situations create that. In a typical transaction that we're dealing in a high demand area like this, we've got to find the win-win. And it's a tie, and everybody goes home happy. They're in their new house.
I mean, I hope my client's happier.
Yeah, well,
but
that
yeah,
judges your win, right? Oh, all right. So, tell me, like I said, just over 3 years now, you've come through market. When you look back of all your sales that you've done so far, which one just puts a smile on your face? What do you feel is just like this was the greatest?
You know, it's an interesting one because it puts the smile on my face because I worked so hard for it. And so I'll tell the backstory of it. And it was one that I just didn't think I was going to get, right? So I was selling a property in Marsh Landing. And it was one of the situations where I said, I knock on the two next doors, right? And so what I said when I went and knocked on their doors, hey, I'm having a party next door. It was a broker's open, but I thought let's invite one or two potential clients. I said, I'm having a party next door. There's going to be live music, drinks. It's going to be so much fun. I gave them an invitation. It's going to be.
Was this in the evening or in the middle of the day?
It was a Thursday.
Afternoon?
Yeah, it was like a Thursday at like 5 or something like
so
that.
Like a happy hour.
Yeah, like
thing.
a normal. Yeah. So I was like, I'm having a little party. I hope you can join. I introduced myself, and he came. And so he came, and I had no idea if he was going to sell his house. I had no idea. And so he had so much fun at the party, came prepared. He's in his 80s, came prepared with a long list of questions that he had for me. Said he already did all of his research. He knew who I voted for, like blah, blah, blah. He did all of his research. And
I love it.
Right. And so he came, had a drink, and then he said, will you come over after and look at my property? I'm thinking about selling it. And I listen to a ton of true crime podcasts, so I'm always a little hesitant. Like safety first is so important in this job.
Yes.
So I think maybe my husband was even on the phone the entire time in my back pocket while I was at this guy's house. Go over there. He shows me his whole property. He's thinking about selling. Okay, great. So I stay in touch with him frequently, like a couple times a week, not in his face, but just via text, checking in.
Well, he told you he was interested in selling, so yeah.
But I knew that he was interviewing other agents, and I knew the other agents who he was interviewing, because this was earlier on. This was a few years ago. I knew they were super high-powered agents, and I couldn't have competed with that, right? And so I'm like, I'm going to beat them in a different way. I'm going to be his friend. I told you this. I'm going to be his friend. And so I found out that he loved golfing, because when we were going through his house, he had like 8 sets of golf clubs. Okay, well, my husband loves golfing. They should golf together. And so I introduced them, and they got along really, really well. And then,
he's probably looking for golf partners all the time.
Oh, most men are.
A lot of his friends are probably passed on.
That's exactly right. And so I decided very early on he's going to be my friend. It's going to be weird, but he's going to be my friend. So he became my friend, and he still is to this day. And I worked to get that transaction. It took me a year and a half of I ran CMAs for him probably 5 times because the market has changed so much in a year and a half at that time. I ran 5 times CMAs, go over to his house, present it to him. A lot of agents would have given up at that point, like a lot of them. And I just kept going because I was like, I'm really far into this now. And I actually really like him.
Gone with anybody else.
He hadn't gone with anyone else.
Yeah, so just stay on it.
And I really liked him.
Yeah.
And I still do. And so, I sold his house in Marsh Landing, and then he went into a rental, and I'm like, gosh, you should not be living in a rental. You need to buy another house. Like, you do not want your last place you live in to be a little shoebox. You want to live in a cool house with a golf course view, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I cared about him. Like, he had gotten sick, and I saw that he was sitting alone in this little tiny apartment when he came from this gorgeous home in Marsh Landing. And I was like, you need a view. Like, you need to be able to walk out your backyard and see people putting, right? Because that's what he loves. So we got him a house in Sawgrass. And he's, to this day, like, he comes to my family's events.
Right.
Like, he's one of my, he's 80-something years old, but he's one of my friends. And I am so, so proud of that. Because I'm telling you, if I gave up within that first year, I would, it's 2 transactions, but it's also a relationship I really value.
2 things there. 99.9% of the agents out there never would have gone next door and invited them to the broker's open.
I tell every agent I come in contact with, like, because I teach classes at Keller, and I've been on some panels for some other brokerages, and I always say to them, like, it's going to take you 5 minutes. I'm not someone who's going to say cold call, door knock. I'm not going to tell you to do that because I think it's a waste of time. But I will say it's going to take you 5 minutes to knock on 2 doors. Just not. I mean, you've got a listing.
Well,
you're
you got
there.
cars all over the place anyway, so you need to make friends next door for that.
Right.
But why not just invite them, and now you've got them in, and they don't care about the car
Well,
parking.
that's exactly right. And you've already got kind of the gravitas of having a listing in their neighborhood already. And so it gives you some value already going into it, some credibility going into it.
Yep.
And like you said, when you have a listing, especially one that's maybe a higher price point that's going to take a little longer to sell, you're going to have some parties, and there are going to be some parking issues possibly. When you turn that neighbor into a potential friend, they're going to be a whole lot nicer about it.
An ally, an advocate.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. That, and obviously the second part is your follow-up over the top. And no matter what sales class you go to, they're going to tell you, it's all in the follow up, right? And that's really, you broke the ice, and now you had someone to follow up with. You had a listing, and now you have a potential next client, which came a little later. But that was out of that one deal, you got 2 because you might have gotten others, but I mean, just by doing some simple thing by inviting them next door, I think that's brilliant.
Well.
Brilliant.
I will say that it's really easy not to do stuff. Like, it's just so simple, but it's really easy not to do things. And so I just assume, okay, let's say I'm competing. I'm going to assume the other agents are not going the next step because I'm always going to go the next step. So if I'm going to compete, and there are plenty of agents who have been doing this for 30 years who have sold far more houses than I have, right? I can't compete against that. I can't make myself older, but I can make myself more accessible, and I can be, I can be in more of a relationship with this person. Because a lot of times, and I say this to new agents all the time, one of your biggest superpowers right now is that you're not busy. It really is. So you're not that busy, which means when you've got a client, they are like a rock star to you, right? Like, make them feel so valued. Like, really, really hone in on them. And it's not always going to be that way because you are going to get busy.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to go to the neighbor's house once a week and present CMAs, right? But while you can, do it.
All right, I'm going to go back to the busy thing here in a second. But I want, because we talked about your most memorable smiling sale. What's that horror story you tell at every cocktail party?
I don't even tell it because I tell agents all the time, get everything in writing, and you never know when you're going to get sued. And it happens, right? So I had a transaction recently. It was some clients who became friends, and they, I didn't know that they were working with another agent for 2 years before this, and so they had worked with another agent. I sell them this house. That agent comes after my commission, like sues me for my whole commission because he thought he was entitled to it. He had no, he didn't have any brokerage agreement in place, nothing like
Buyer's
that.
agreement, yeah.
No. And so he came after my whole commission, and it turned into, that can very quickly soil a deal. Like our deal didn't fall apart, but there was like this dark cloud hanging over the whole transaction, right? And so,
Because I imagine, well, did he make this approach to you after you were under contract or after the house actually closed?
After the house closed, and he saw it on their social media. And so, it was the first time I ever had to call clients as witnesses. And that was tough, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want anyone getting involved in your dirty laundry.
Did you come out on the right end of this?
Oh yeah, I won the deal, kept my commission. I had a spectacular attorney representing me, and it was turned into a non-issue, but it was still like a very dark cloud.
I mean, here's the chess play. This guy, who knows when the last time he actually worked with them, right? Actually showed him a house, or they actually interacted. It probably was a period of time. I doubt they saw him on Wednesday, saw you on Saturday, and went with you.
Well, right, and that's what the whole board had to agree. So who I was up in front of, who had to decide who wins this thing, they had to agree that the chain of interaction ended here and mine started here, right? And I was able to prove that because, like I said, get everything in writing. So I had been sending them buyer's guides, and they were on my marketing chain for 2 years. Like, sure, they were working with another agent because everyone knows a million agents, but they...
Did you know about him at all?
No, I had no idea.
So you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a real estate agent. They selected you, and
That's what they said. They got up there in front of the board and said, "We work with Sofie because she's better at this."
We had a better relationship. Whatever it was that
she said,
they were attracted to you.
They wrote 7 offers with this other agent and didn't get a single one accepted. And so she's like, "We needed to get a house." And they
felt changing agents would get them there.
Yeah, and that
as
happens.
A buyer, that's their prerogative.
That happens. That's exactly right. So I would say that wasn't necessarily the transaction, but it was just, the overall.
Well, what I don't understand from an agent standpoint, it hurts. It hurts. Your client decided to go with someone else. They didn't think you're good. It hurts anybody.
100%.
But what is the play by going after the agent who had no idea you existed?
They said that I did, and they said that it should have been my transaction because I worked with them for so many years, blah, blah, blah.
Wow. Every car dealer in town, they looked at that minivan with me first.
That's so funny that you say that. That, like, my husband, he's not on the sales part of it, really. He's on the commercial side of the business now. But he said that's like if someone came into our dealership and said, "I want a quote on the F-150," and I quoted it to them, and then they, went to another dealership and bought. That's like me suing the other salesperson.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah. It makes no sense at all. So that's a really good one, and I think that agent and someone listening, it happens. You're gonna be heartbroken, but you got to take a deep breath and understand. I believe, and to me, things happen for a reason. And it didn't happen to you because you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. Maybe you need to learn to negotiate and you should have gotten one of those 7 contracts done, right? Maybe someone's telling you something and that's how they're telling you. And you can't take it out on the other agent when the other agent is just doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that person felt they needed to change representatives, like changing lawyers. I don't think that lawyer can do it for me. I'm going to change the lawyers and go with this lawyer.
It happens, that it happens.
But the chess play is in the greater real estate community. You really look like a fool. Not but this person.
Yeah. It was odd. The board said, okay, well, it typically takes about 24 to 48 hours for us to reach a decision. I had a phone call my attorney did, call from the board on a verdict within 15 minutes.
Yeah. You reached a peak, you got busy. It was a busy time. Slow down a little bit now, but you've been doing all the right things and building those relationships because you had stuff coming to you, and so you've got these things going. You've gotten busy, and now you've created Gordon and Co. Is that how you say it? How do you say Gordon and Co? So one of the challenges I think for agents and actually even loan officers, when we reach a volume standpoint, we need that assistant. And I noticed in your team picture, there's a couple people with you. Tell us about your group, your Gordon and Co. And at what point did you feel, and I imagine you got coaching from Keller Williams, because a lot of that, hey, you needed to actually start spinning some stuff off on somebody else.
So I opted to have a transaction manager, and she's far more than that. I should give her more credit. She's more like an operations manager.